Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
I have strong opinions, loosely held. I thought that was probably one of the smartest things I've heard from anybody in a long time. Just happened to be in a conversation between Simon Sinek and Jordan Peterson. That was a brilliant conversation. I learned a lot that day, but I've also learned a lot watching media and social media over the last few years, and that's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned.
Master the story power method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the QR code to book your first coaching call or visit storypowercoach.com.
Subscribe now for access to our extensive media library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. Begin your personal growth plan at storypoweracademy.com for leadership development and communication skills training.
I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. If you've been in leadership for any period of time, you know that there's always going to be someone who's looking to you, even if it's just at a sideways glance, to get your opinion, to get your feedback, to get your take on things. I didn't recognize it early on. I mean, I guess it's always been there, but it's a whole lot easier to see in hindsight than it was in the moment. I remember all the way back to elementary and middle school, those times when I inadvertently, accidentally became the ringleader, probably because I have a loud voice or I have strong opinions or I was just crazy enough to act. But most of my life, I've been the one that if there was nobody designated as a leader, I somehow ended up the one that everybody looked to and went, well, what do you think? What should we do? How do we do this? And well, what's next? And most of the time, I had no idea. I had no plan. I had no structure. I had no background on it. I had no education on it. I just went with my gut, with what I thought was common sense, and I moved forward. Thankfully, most of the time, I was at least close enough to not get hurt, unalived, or in trouble. Now, the challenge with that kind of leadership quality, and if you don't have it, you probably despise it. I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just being honest. There are a lot of people who they're just not the leadership type. It's not their personality style. That doesn't mean they can't learn leadership skills. It just means it's not their nature to walk into a room and have the presence and the wherewithal and to have people look to them and go, I trust you to do this. But there are people who have that natural gift that don't add talent or skill to it. Many of them become drug dealers and ringleaders in crime because people follow them. They do what others ask them to do, and they have this great level of influence and voice. And so when they speak, when they encourage, even if they're completely wrong, even if they're way off target, even if their ideas are not only unfounded, but they're nefarious, they're destructive, they're ultimately dangerous, because they have a voice, because they have an attitude, because they have the moxie to stand up and say, this is what we should do. People often follow it. And I have been in those places myself where someone with more charisma than me, someone with a louder voice than me, someone with a higher title than me, makes a declaration that says, this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, I'm behind you 100%. And I lend my voice, my strength, my talent, my skill, my effort, my passion to them to move toward this endeavor. Only to find out later that, well, they were completely misled. I was listening to an interview today, Dyer of a CEO. And Stephen was talking with Vice President J.D. Vance. And he said, you know, at one time, you were not a big fan of that boss of yours. And he said, no, I haven't always agreed with him. But I can tell you, the more I get to know the person, the more I realize there are a lot of people out there who despise what they think he's like when they have no idea what he's actually like. That's a pretty profound statement. But the same guy also said, when I was a teenager, my grandmother told me if I don't stop hanging out with this bad influence, she's going to run him over with the car. What? If that's what it takes to separate you from bad influence, You got to do what you got to do. Kind of the way grandma thought about it, right? The real question is, as a leader, how often do you find yourself stepping in behind? Following, submitting, surrendering your ideas. J.D. Vance also went on to say in that same interview in the Diary of a CEO, he said, I joined the Marine Corps because I had this patriotic duty to defend my country. I went off to war as a Marine with an open-ended contract. They could make me do whatever job they needed me to do, and they sent me right into Iraq. He said, I went to Iraq believing I was doing the right thing for our country, and I got there and realized I don't think the president sent us there with all the right information. That would have been George W. He said, perhaps I like the man, but I didn't like the process that we went through, that forever war, if you will, 20 plus years. For what? There are a lot of people that hold that opinion. There are a lot of people who believe that many people died and billions of dollars were spent for nothing. There are a lot of people whose lives came home wrecked, their families wrecked, their reputations wrecked, their futures wrecked, their bodies wrecked. Some who didn't come home at all. Perhaps by misguided leadership? I don't know. Only history will know on that one. But what if you have that kind of leadership skill? The one that you might recognize it in your own life if every room you're in, where someone who's in a multi-level marketing, or some would call it a pyramid scheme, that they're significantly different legally speaking, but a multi-level marketing, a direct marketing company, if you have the type of personality that everyone you ever met who's involved in a direct marketing company has tried to recruit you, you might have that kind of charisma, that kind of leadership influence, that kind of raw talent that you just walk in the room and people are like, I want to hear what you have to say. If that's the case, then you probably also get offered every job you apply for. And again, I'm not being disparaging to anybody else. I'm just saying these are some of the kinds of things. Let me lay that in contrast a little bit. My youngest daughter has been as tall as me since she was about 14 years old, with heels on, taller than me. To this day, she puts heels on, she's taller than me, and it's a little frustrating. She's also always been a strikingly beautiful young woman. And at 14 years old, she graduated from the Dale Carnegie course, Outstanding Achievement Award from the Dale Carnegie course. It's pretty impressive when you're 14 and you can communicate at that level. It was never her passion. I tried to get her in sales. She didn't really want to do that. People tried to recruit her in MLM. She didn't really want to do that. She's a mom, works from home with 6 sons. But she's always had that ability to walk into the room and take over. Always. So when she went to apply for her first job not working for me, I said, you need to do a couple of things. First thing you do is when you walk in the door, even if there's a help wanted sign on the front window and you can see it clearly walking in, ask the question, are you hiring? If they say no, don't argue, turn around and walk out the door. Because what you're already battling is a subconscious battle of the person who's answering that question doesn't really want you to work there because they're already intimidated by you. If you know that about yourself, if you know that about your children, prepare them for that. As a leader, you should be able to identify the people in your organization who have that kind of natural charisma, that natural ability to walk in the room and take over whether they intend to or not. I said, now, if you do walk in and you say, are you hiring? And they say, yes, we are, ask for an application. And if they give you the application, do not sit there and fill it out. Because the person who's a little bit curious and a little bit intimidated will question you 20 questions while you're filling out the application, and they will undermine you before they hand you off to the hiring manager. So take the application, leave, and bring it back. When you bring it back, do not hand it over. Do not walk in the door and go, here's my application. Please call me if you have an opening. Walk in the door, hold the application close to your chest, and say, is the hiring manager available? If they say yes, can I take your application? Say, I'd rather hang on to it until the interview. Don't give them the application until the interview. Two primary reasons. Number one is that intimidation factor again. They're already intimidated by you. That application may find a round file. It may never make it to the boss. Or there may be all kinds of excuses between here and there that they come back and go, sorry, I thought we were going to have an interview for you. Let me hold on to your application. And really all they did was go around the corner and wander around the hallway for a minute and come back. But they don't have any intention of you having an interview. Hold on to that application. Don't give it to anybody other than the hiring manager, and if at all possible. Remember, you are homeschooled. You don't have a high school diploma. You don't have some fancy degree. You are walking in there on your raw talent and your skill alone. Your ability to get attention, your ability to articulate, your ability to process thoughts and bring them to the table. That's what's going to make you successful. That paper application is nothing but a IQ test for other kinds of people. I think it's awful like a resume. That's why I teach people in Story Power Academy. We don't need the resume when we have stories of credibility from our own experiences. When we've done what everybody else puts on their resume they'd like to do, when you've already done it, talk about that. Talk about your successes. Tell the story of your successes. I told her, follow this process. If they don't give you an interview on the spot, take your application and leave. Don't leave it. Well, she did. She followed exactly those steps to the best of her explanation to me. She went into 6 places, filled out 6 applications, had 4 job interviews and 2 job offers all in the same day. Why? Because she knows she's a natural leader. She may not have understood it at 16, 17 years old, but she gets that now. Now she works from home and she helps to run a large business, and her husband runs one of his own. The ability to step into the room and take over and lead is a huge, phenomenal asset. It's also a responsibility. It's an enormous burden. Because when you have the ability to lead, when you have that moxie, when you have that charisma, when you have that loud voice, other people will co-opt it. This is my warning. That's really the heart of this podcast today. I want you to understand that it's very common for leeches of ideology to latch on to leaders who don't guard their priorities. If you don't protect your priorities, guard your reputation, and I mean, you've got to watch your own principles like a hawk. Because other people will kind of drop theirs in there. They'll look for adjacent synergies. Well, if you believe that, then don't you also believe this? I mean, if that's important to you, isn't this also important to you? If you support this cause or this person or this candidate or this worldview, don't you also believe in this? How can you possibly believe that and not believe this? And they will co-opt your priorities in a heartbeat. They will co-opt your principles in a heartbeat. They will destroy your reputation. They'll ask you to speak on their behalf, to lead on their behalf. Join my cause. Come with me to this protest. Be amongst these people. Do this thing. Speak to this cause. And when you do, they will use your influence, your platform, your voice, your talent, your skill until they've wrung you dry. In fact, they'll allow you to run as the point person until societal pressure crushes you into a fine powder. And then you'll blow you away like the dust. They'll kick you to the curb like yesterday's garbage. They couldn't care less. They want, when I say they, I mean these nefarious bunches who have this constant, ever-evolving grind of societal destruction in mind. There are those who write on their Facebook header of their group, say, our desire, our passion, our purpose is to bring down Western society. They want to destroy Western civilization. The idea of free market capitalism, of individuality, of individual responsibilities and individual consequences to go along with individual liberty. They want that notion gone. And when I say they, there are many theys. And ironically, they have just that one thing in common. They pop up in different social structures. If you haven't read this book right here, if you haven't read this, you need to get this. And if you're not watching the video, you should be watching the video, because I'm not even going to say it out loud, because this book would probably cause YouTube to look at me funny if I said it out loud. I'm not going to. I want to read this to you, though. This is right out of presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy's book, Woke Inc. This is early in the book. In fact, before he even gets to the Goldman Rule, this is on page 9. Page 9 of his book. So in the end, I decided to practice what I preached. It wasn't easy, but on January 2021, I stepped down as CEO of my own company 7 years after I founded it, and I gave the job to a person who was most qualified to do it, our longtime CFO, whose personal perspectives couldn't be more different from my own. He's liberal, he's brilliant, and on the day I appointed him, I said that he would speak for the company going forward, and I meant it. There was a certain irony to that decision that lingered with me. When other CEOs like Mark Benioff wrote books about their views on business and politics, it didn't hurt their companies at all. Rather, it seems to help them, but my situation was different. At the company town hall explaining my decision to step away, I said that it was important to separate my personal voice as a citizen from the voice of the company in order to protect the company. No one was confused. I'd like to think a double standard at play. I do think there is a double standard at play in America, but ultimately I didn't step aside because I feared a firestorm. I did it because my own beliefs told me I had to keep business and politics apart. A good barometer for the health of any democracy is the percentage of people who are willing to say what they actually believe in public. As a nation, we're doing pretty poorly on that metric right now, and the only way to fix it is to start talking openly again. Multi-billionaire, started with less than $100 in his pocket when he came to this country, built his way up, providing thousands of jobs, providing services and quality products that shaped the life of millions. Made it to the place where he was able to run for president of the United States of America. And yet, something along the way, the pressure of those who would recruit him, who would co-opt his priorities, who would co-opt his platform. That's what they wanted. They wanted this immigrant who was a billionaire, who was a capitalist, obviously, who built this company off the back of his own sweat. They wanted this man to side with their worldview, to side with their ideology. And when it didn't happen, they basically started a coup within his own company. Just the social pressure to come at him as a town hall, as a bunch of employees who have nothing vested other than to show up at work and go home with a paycheck. They got nothing else invested in this. They've put nothing in this company except a little bit of labor. They didn't risk their mortgage. They didn't risk their family relationships. They just showed up for a job, went home with a check. But they all rallied together to pressure their leader into surrendering his priorities, giving his voice, handing over his megaphone, his platform, his skill set, his talent, his tenacity, to use those things to further their own cause. Now, dare I say, there are hundreds of causes. There's an old ideology said there are thousands of voices clamoring to be heard. And all of these voices come together as a dull roar sometimes, this ever-evolving chaos that we see. It's not unintentional. Dozens of demonstrations going on at one time. One about racism, one about politics, one about global warming, one about war, one about finance, one about Bitcoin, one about data centers. They're fighting all over constantly. And if you dig deep enough, if you look far enough, what you find is the provocateurs at the top of the food chain are a handful. Not dozens, not thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions who are gathered in the streets all around the world, but ironically, they do kind of work together because ultimately they work for the same people who have the same goal: to end Western society as we know it, to end Western civilization altogether, to globally do away with free market capitalism. Does it have flaws? Yeah, it does. Is it wrong? No, I don't think in the end free market capitalism is wrong. I think it's the better idea of all of the other economic structures, but I'm no Milton Friedman. You should read his work. Just listen to the people who've done the homework, not the ones who conjecture. Marx was a fraud, not just a fraud. His ideology was flawed, and he wrote most of it while sitting in the basement while his parents took care of him because they were very wealthy people. Do your homework. You're going to find some very interesting things about him. But his ideas have permeated a lot of elite mindsets. And those elites, they have the money to pay other people around the world to act like idiots on their behalf. Sorry, I'm not meaning to be insulting. I'm just being honest. There are people all over the world doing the bidding of elites who would never dare allow someone to scratch their car. I mean, we have people sitting in would-be castles, multi-million-dollar homes behind high fences with private security declaring we don't need borders. Well, then take down yours. If we don't need borders, if we don't need the ability to defend ourselves, if we shouldn't have the right to stand up when someone threatens our person, threatens our family, threatens our possessions, threatens our position in life, if we don't have the right to stand up when that happens, then leave your security behind. If you're going to legally tell us you can't do these things, then stop doing it. Just live amongst the rest of us, just like you're expecting us to live. And stop funding the behavior that destroys small businesses. I remember during one series of riots, it's been a few years ago. During the series of riots, one of the local neighbors came out and she stopped all the people that were doing the looting and the rioting. And she said, "What are you doing? This is our neighborhood. I know you. I know where you live. Next week, you're not going to be able to go to the pharmacy and buy a soft drink because you just destroyed the entire building, and they're not going to rebuild it in a week. 2 weeks from now, there will be no place for you to go get diapers for your baby because you're destroying it. And for what? What are you accomplishing by that? I mean, yeah, you stole some stuff you can sell. So what? What happens next? Don't do this in your own neighborhood." I thought she had a great point. I also understand that she was tapping into a greater point, and that is what I'm talking about today, and that is don't lend your voice, your physical person, your platform, your influence, your relationships, your leverage, all those things you've worked for to build your reputation, to keep yourself out of trouble, to keep your nose clean, to build something for your own life. Don't hand those things over to someone who will use you like a toilet paper roll and cast you aside to start a fire with. Because I promise you they will. They will use your youth. They will tell you we're equipping you. They will tell you that the cause is greater than you, that you should invest yourself in it, that you should be willing to lay down your life for it, that you should be willing to lay down anything for it, that you should sacrifice for it. And when that doesn't work, they'll offer to pay you. They'll provide the things of destruction for you. I remember driving through Fort Worth, Texas. I was on my way to a men's conference. It was one of those where parking cost more than the event, so I didn't want to pay for parking. I had my wife drop me off. And as we were driving into Fort Worth, under the bridge where all the homeless live, I saw 2 pallets of bricks. And I remember looking at my wife going, what kind of moron just leaves bricks there? Number one, that's not cheap. Number two, are they expecting the homeless to build their own homes? Why in the world would you leave bricks in the middle of the homeless community? That's just insane. Almost 3 months later, we had reports of riots breaking out all over the country. And in many of those riots, they were throwing brand new bricks. In many of those locations, they found that those bricks had been on pallets, dropped off in those places months before. Wait, spontaneous riot? 3 months of spontaneity? 90 days of preparation for... Give me a break. And if you think that they're not just whipping up a frenzy for one cause for the day, understand that, again, dozens of outbursts, dozens of violent reactions, dozens of invoked outrage all over the world. 5 or 6 players at the top paying for all of it. If you could follow the money trail far enough, ask who paid for the bricks. Ask who paid for the ballot boxes. Ask who paid for the fireworks. Ask who paid for the banners and the signs, professionally printed banners and signs. Banners that, if you look really close, the top part of the banner isn't a dowel rod, which is what a lot of people hold a banner with. It's actually sharpened on both ends, and it has metal reinforcements in the center. Why? Because it's not just a banner, it's a weapon. This is not hard stuff to figure out. Just watch the videos. They're everywhere. They promote themselves while they're doing this violence. They gang up on one person and beat them silly in the street. And people are like, oh, well, allegedly. You're like, allegedly nothing. They filmed it. I mean, we only know because we saw it on social media, and we saw it on social media from so-and-so's phone. And so-and-so obviously was there when their phone was there doing the thing. They recorded what happened. They were part of it. That's not allegedly. That's evidentially. But see, we forget about these things, and we try to move on with the idea that I will speak up on behalf of the unjust for a moment, and then I'll go about my business. No, my friend, you won't. You don't intend to take sides with a faction. You intend to take a side that is just. I get it. We're leaders. That's what we do. We're supposed to speak up. We're supposed to be a part of change. We're supposed to be busy bringing about transformation for the better. That's what we're made for. That's why we're wired the way we are. My challenge to you is really, really clear, though. As you're challenged, inspired, influenced, recruited to lend your voice, your gifts, your skills, your talents, your platform, your income to the cause du jour, to the organized chaos, pre-planned, prepaid, organized chaos. When you find yourself at that place where they're looking at you going, why don't you speak up? Why don't you pitch in? Why don't you contribute? Remember, we had elected officials running for office who were also standing on the side of the rioters going, if you get in trouble, I will bail you out of jail. I will personally pay for you to get out of jail. They're not going to stop. They shouldn't stop. That's being used. That leader was being used by organized chaos, by the 5 or 6 puppet masters at the top, paying for all of this destruction. As a leader, I don't care what level. You lead your family and that's it. You lead a local local Sunday school class. Let me say that in English. You lead a local community, a network meeting. Don't allow yourself to become the victim, because they will crush you into a dust, blow you away, and kick you to the curb like yesterday's garbage. The minute you lose your usefulness, the minute you stop having the influence for their cause du jour, you're out of the picture. And you will not gain from it the notoriety you think you're going to gain. You will not get from it the accolades that you think you're going to get. It will not promote you as they promise that it will. It will destroy you, first in your own soul. When you realize how you've been used, you're going to wish you hadn't been. My warning to you as a leader is understand that you have gifts, you have talents, you have personality, you have ability to influence. Not everybody has that. Don't let those who seek your ultimate demise use it against you. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Think storytelling's just for bedtime? Nah, it's the secret sauce for business magic. Stuck in a rut with bland pitches and yawning clients? Enter Boost Your Business with Story Power. 6 weeks of epic storytelling training. It's like leveling up in a video game but for your career. Master the art of narrative and watch connections blossom like a viral TikTok. Simple, impactful, and game-changing. Ready to transform your biz vibes? Dive in now and make storytelling your superpower.
This 6 weeks guided program is specifically designed for those people who say, I know I need to tell stories. I need to tell better stories because the ones I have are boring or they're not getting across. Or as John Maxwell says, everyone communicates and, well, few connect. Now, as a participant in this course, what I would really love to know from you, put it in the discussion on the course if you're already registered online. Send me a chat, send me a DM, send me a text, send me an email. I'd really love to know what you hope to get out of this course. Now, I can tell you what we're going to discuss, and I can tell you what I plan to teach and train you on, and I can tell you even what we plan to discuss each week on the calls for the next 6 weeks. I'm going to go over all of that for you in just a moment. I can also tell you that my clients who get the greatest success are the ones who apply the Story Power process to their business development to increase their impact, their influence, and their income. Now, the Story Power process includes story mining, story selection, story qualification, story crafting, connecting with your audience, and leading the narrative. And if you leave any one of those parts out, you're going to find that, well, you're just not as effective as you want to be. You're not going to grow your business to the same level. You're not going to lead with impact and influence like you hope to. I can also tell you that the people who apply these things, well, they're not failing in their business. The reason a lot of people fail in their business is they continue to fail to connect the solution they offer with the problem that their clients have. The pain and the solution never come together. And a lot of that failure is because they're not clearly articulating how their solution solves someone else's problem. It comes down to a question something like this. Who do you help and how? Yes, that's one of the first things we're going to discuss over the next 6 weeks of Boost Your Business with Story Power.
Master the Story Power method to captivate your audience, improve workplace culture, and 10x your fundraising.
Scan the QR code to book your first coaching call or visit storypowercoach.com.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith,